So Snake Eyes, a G.I. Joe origin, has finally come out, and I know I'm about a week late to the party, but I just got to see it, so let's talk about it.
Ninja have brought peace to the world. But things have changed. I need warriors like you to become the future of the clan.
So going into this film, I was hearing some pretty actually terrible reviews from critics. Didn't really enjoy it, but audiences were actually thinking it was an okay film, and going into it, I was a bit hasty. The trailers didn't blow me away. Again, reviews didn't blow me away. I was thinking that this was going to be a, again, not so good G.I. Joe film. I was pleasantly surprised that this film was actually pretty fun. It's not an amazing work of art. It's not the next Citizen Kane or anything, but in terms of a summer blockbuster, I thought it was actually a lot of fun. First off, the performances in this film and actors are actually really good. Harry Golding as Snake Eyes is actually really surprisingly good. There's not anything like super depth with his character or anything. Like, he has some motivation that they give him, but he's really good in action sequences. He's fun and charming and likable in the lead. So, he's a great character and actually a really fun character. The rest of the cast and characters play their part extremely well, and there's not really any bad performances, which is actually surprising, because in the past two G.I. Joe films, there's been some really noticeable, like, really cheesy and corny performances, but in this film, there actually isn't really one performance that's really bad. Even the performances that are, like, really homing it up and chewing every ounce of screen time that they get, they're actually pretty good performances, which I thought was actually pretty surprising. And something I was hearing that was mixed bag for some people was the action. Now listen, this film doesn't have amazing action, but surprisingly, I was hearing that this film's action was poorly filmed. You can tell what's happening most of the time. Some action sequences are like really close up and in your face, and you can't really tell what's happening, but for the most part, the action was like really well shot and edited. It's kind of weird though that this film doesn't know what a Steadicam is, not just in the action sequences, but just in a lot of scenes. The film's camera just moves around a lot, and I think they wanted this unhinged style to the film, and at times in the action sequences, there's some cool and unique shots, but a lot of the times this film really needed a Steadicam. I don't really know, maybe they couldn't afford one, but the action I thought was pretty fun. This film is quite brutal in a lot of points. There's a lot of people getting stabbed and shot and, killed, and I thought it was really fun. The choreography in these fight scenes was actually really good. Most of the actors doing their own stunts, to my knowledge. I was thinking going into this film that the action was going to be quite bad or just okay, and yeah, the action's okay. I'd rather have okay action though than really poorly filmed or edited action. The action was fun. You need to know what you're going into. This isn't a perfect film by any stretch of the imagination. The film has problems, which we'll get into, but the characters were fun, likable enough. Each of them has unique motives they can get behind. The action scenes were fun and interesting enough, and the film is just a fun time at the movies. Maybe since this is my first time back in the cinema since Wonder Woman 1984, I have different opinions. So maybe if I would have watched this film at home when it came out, I would have had different opinions, but it was just a fun experience. This is definitely a summer blockbuster, eat popcorn and just kind of turn your brain off type movie. And normally I don't really like those type of films, but with this film, for some strange reason, it gelled with me. I didn't think this was an amazing masterpiece of class or anything. There was problems, but I think this was an enjoyable film enough at the time. The film was really over the top a lot of the points because it's a G.I. Joe film. There's a lot of people doing crazy, unique poses and just screaming for like no apparent reason, but I thought it was a lot of fun. And also, this film does have heart. Nothing like super insane or anything like super emotional, but it's enough for this type of film to get by. This film isn't hollow or anything. It's not soulless or anything. This film has a soul and a spine to keep this film unique and going. But there is problems. I already talked about how some of the action sequences are hit or miss, and also there's some weird editing choices and stylistics that just didn't really work for me. And also the opening I found to be not very good. The film opens with this backstory to Snake Eyes and his father, and then we cut many years later to a cage fight. And to be honest, this film could have easily began with that cage fight. I understand what the filmmakers were going. They wanted the emotional punch to be that much more punchy. Is that even a word to describe it? Script, we're gonna go with punchy. I understand what they were going with, but I just kind of wish that opening sequence was done better. It kind of reminded me of the 2017 film Shazam. An overall pretty fun film, but the opening was like really bad. It wasn't that bad, but it kind of reminded me of it. And also why this film is mostly perfectly well paced and fun and interesting. There's some moments that just kind of dragged and is kind of uninteresting, and also characters were just kind of spewed out exposition for no apparent reason. Snake Eyes will be like, what does this mean? And this guy was like, when I was a child. And then he just goes into this melodramatic backstory a lot of the times of the film. But, to be honest, this is a G.I. Joe film. It's ridiculous, cheesy, and corny in a lot of points, but also has some heart to do with it. It's not the best movie in the world. It's not going to win any Oscars. But to be honest, it knows it. It doesn't take itself too seriously, but it's not super cheesy where it feels like a Saturday morning cartoon. It rounds the balance between G.I. Joe cheesiness and more serious melodramatic stuff. And I really enjoyed it. I'll give Snake Eye at G.I. Joe Origin a B. I think it's an extremely fun and enjoyable film if you know what you're getting into. Just go to the movie, get a bag of popcorn, a drink, and just enjoy the film. If you don't think about it too much, you'll have a pretty fun time. So those are my thoughts on Snake Eyes. What do you think of those? Let me know all your thoughts down in the comment section below. If it's like, hit the like button and subscribe and that post notification bell so you know it's one of those. Check out my podcast. I do every other Tuesday with a friend of mine. It's called a Movie Podcast. We talk about movies, TV shows, a bunch of nonsense. And you guys can check out my Instagram at JonesCardaniel77. Thanks for watching, guys, and keep talking movies.